And then the Facebook group is Time for Disclosure / We Have Never Been Alone / We Are the Disclosure. So I may change that at some point, but right now that's what it is.
Yeah, more slashes in there than a Ted Bundy ding.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, welcome to Encounters USA. I am your host, Matthew Hines to some people. Tonight we have a very special guest. We have Nancy Thames. In fact, she's so special they named a river after her. So it's going to be really an exciting podcast tonight because we're going to be talking about, of course, on Encounters USA, we do aliens, Bigfoot, and Dogman, like on my shirt here. But tonight we're going to be concentrating on aliens, and I just want to do a little plug here. If you want to see more podcasts and more YouTube videos that relate to this subject, go to encountersusa.com. And this is my only real alien book. This is my book. Oh, it's green, so you're not going to be able to see it that well. But you can pick it up on my website. It's called Deceptions of the Ages. And it deals with extraterrestrials, and it's going to deal with some of the information that we're going to be talking about tonight. So, Nancy Thames, welcome to Encounters USA.
Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
All right. So you are actually down in Mississippi.
Yes, I am.
And okay, well, I hopefully that's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
Okay. So yeah, so the first thing that we want to talk about, Nancy, is let's just get a little background on you. Like we're going to talk about aliens, but let's do a little bit about you professionally. What did you do? And then we'll kind of do a little U-turn and talk about your alien encounters.
Okay. My name is Nancy Thames. I'm a lifelong contactee with interdimensional extraterrestrials. And this has been occurring all my life. I've worked in dentistry forever. So when I got a job with the Department of Defense as a civilian, I worked in dentistry. And the first place I went to was at Schofield Barracks in Hawaii. And then I was at Fort Benning, Georgia. And what was significant about that, which has nothing to do with disclosure, was that I was working in teaching facilities, and I had the privilege of being around 3D imaging, which is a very high-tech type of x-rays that you do not even see around in public, in the public, and even in the hospitals and stuff. I've not seen any 3D imaging done. So this was a pretty unique experience. And what was so significant about it is that when the Peruvian Nazca mummies were presented in Mexico at their congressional hearings, the man that introduced them to their congressional hearings, people shunned him, and the media would not even carry the coverage because automatically they assumed it was not real. They assumed that he had tinkered and played with the bone structures and put like animal or children bones in with these. So it was dismissed. But I watched it on YouTube. That was the only way to watch it, as it continued on for days. And when they said 3D imaging, that automatically registered in my mind because you cannot cheat on x-rays of 3D imaging. They're unlike the x-rays that we take in everyday normal life where we take it in, it's more two-dimensional. We take it like in front of a bone, behind a bone, or at an angle. But when you're doing three-dimensional, the x-ray goes down, it gets the x-ray of inside the bone, around every part of the bone, every little ligament, every little vessel, every little nerve ending, everything is exposed on this x-ray. You cannot cheat on these x-rays. So those mummies were real, but most of the world believed what the media was saying and stuff, and now they're coming out and trying to backtrack and say, oh, those were real. But still, that just kind of tells you that there's a lot of censorship in a lot of the things that happen on our planet. And, there's a lot of things like that need to change, because we deserve the truth. That's what people need at this day and time. So that's where that played into that. And I truly feel like the interdimensional extraterrestrials wanted me to have that experience, not only for that reason, but it was, it kind of gives them whatever I experienced. They know everything that I experienced. So what better way to really truly know what it's like to be a human being than send and incarnate from their dimension here to be part of the world, have the human experience. And so my soul incarnated here, and they've shown me visions of this. And, so it took me a long time to understand and figure all these things out, because they gifted me a Kundalini awakening almost between 2 and 3 years ago. We're pushing more towards 3, but we're still a little over 2. And when that occurred, everything that they had ever told me since I was in my 20s and 30s and 40s that definitely did not make sense in my human, trying to rationalize these things did not make sense. So to help me to understand, they gave me the Kundalini awakening, which opened my subconscious up into my human consciousness and helped me to remember and piece all this stuff together. So that's the military aspect.
Okay, let me jump in here for a second, Nancy, because I really want to structure this. Now, I just have to throw this in there. You had a background in dentistry.
Yep.
Well, actually, I took up dentistry for a while, but I had to get out of it. You know why?
You didn't like blood.
No, because I was always down in the mouth.
Okay.
I was pretty depressing. So,
Yeah.
I don't have a drum roll thing here. So
You
anyway,
need something, yeah.
have to throw that in there.
Yeah.
All right. So, we before we're going to talk more about the aliens from the Nazca thing in a bit, but I'd like you to you talk about you're a lifelong experiencer, right? So
Yes.
let's go with that first. Let's talk about your lifelong experiences. When did they start? And then I want to go into you talk about how you were basically the almost like an avatar for these people. So let's talk about your lifelong experiences. Let's talk
Sure.
about how they started and
Sure. My first conscious memories are from about 2 to 3 years old. And they would come to visit me, and they would always send 3 grays. At the time, I didn't know what they were. I just called them beings. So they would send what I now know are 3 grays. And one is a female, and she is bonded with me, and I love her, and she loves me. And all my life it's always those 3. If they're transporting me through them, which usually means a craft is closer nearby. And what she would do is prepare me for my trip to craft. So humans being of a low frequency, she would either use her consciousness or use a handheld device, and she would run it up and down my body, and it never touched me, but it would go up and down. And all of a sudden, I would feel my body start to vibrate, and then it would start to raise up off the bed. And as that happened, she would take me by the hand and then lead me up through the ceiling or through a wall or through a door. And, I didn't have a problem with any of this when I was young, because I had nothing to influence me. It was what it was, And when I would run and tell my parents, there's beings were in my room, they would just say, oh, go back to bed. You're having a dream. So, I learned at a very young age to dismiss these things and suppress it, because as I got older, wasn't so cute and stuff anymore. And my parents emphasized more, you cannot talk about this kind of stuff at school, Girl Scouts, with the basketball team, with the softball team, your friends, even other family members when we have get-togethers, because the world does not want to hear this. And I grew up in the South, in Tennessee, and these things were considered either demonic or a mental health issue. So my parents said, people will laugh at you, people will make fun of you. You cannot talk about this. And I took their advice, and as I got older, I could sense from hearing what other people were saying, because at this point in my life, junior high, high school, I was seeing things on TV, Star Trek, different things. So, and I was, a little bit being able to find things like at a bookstore or something, but not that much, because it really wasn't a hot topic in the South because of what it was stereotyped as. So, however, when I got to where I started reading more and hearing more what other people were saying about their experiences, it made me question my experiences. So at that point, when they've always let me know at least 10 minutes before they manifest into a room wherever I am. I guess what they're doing is they're giving me time to mentally prepare myself. So everything was fine and good when I was little, but when I was in the junior high, high school, getting closer to my late teens and stuff, then when I would feel that, I would start to feel dread. I would start to pull the sheets up, pretend like I was asleep. And they're telepathic. They know everything we feel. So as I started to feel the fear, which I guess they anticipated this would happen, but when it did, they would simply touch me on my forehead and put me in a blacked out state. So that way I would come back and have what I call fragmented memories. And other people have this happen too. And it's called missing time. So they can do it to where it's complete missing time, or they can do it to where you have fragmented memories. And with me, they did the fragmented memories because it gave me the opportunity to reflect back, that rationalize this in my mind. This is going to keep happening. And when I was younger, I wasn't scared. And I had to understand that it was my fear that was making them have to, block out my memories and make it fragmented, because they could have blocked it completely out, but they didn't, because they knew I wasn't aggressive, and they knew that I needed time to mature into this because the world around me had influenced me. So I started working on that. I started working on it, and it did not happen overnight. It was a process. Everything is a process. And I started, they let me know they're coming, and then I started feeling the dread and started feeling the fear. Then I would consciously tell my mind, I can do this. I am not afraid. This is a vibrational frequency I'm experiencing, because we are at a lower frequency than they are. And for me, it's never been about what they look like. It is the frequency exchange between a human being and a extraterrestrial, interdimensional. It is overwhelming. It is very overwhelming. It's a combination of extreme fear and extreme euphoria, and our brains just really can't comprehend it. And because of my fear, it intensified in me as my frequency began to raise up. Rather than, it didn't calm me down, it made me more scared. And so they would have to black me out, and that's what they do with all humans if it gets to that point. So, and I found out later on that what she was doing when she was changing my vibrational frequency by holding a hand device or consciously doing it, she was changing my earth frequency as Nancy to match their frequency. And when she got me to that level that they were, that's how she was able to take me up through the roof or through the ceiling or through a door, you know.
Okay, so that answers a lot of questions, but it also gives me a lot more questions. All right, so let's go back here, 2 or 3, right? They're abducting you for the first time. Did they tell you why?
I never call it abductions. I call it enlightened contacts or contacts. And what happens is they send, they being the interdimensional and other extraterrestrials, send 3 grays. These 3 grays are hybrids that were created by the tall grays and the interdimensionals. Extraterrestrials and interdimensionals do not like the density, the low frequency of Earth. We are at a very low frequency. They are at a much higher frequency, and it's not as dense. So it's uncomfortable. So they created the hybrid gray, which is not a gray color. She's reddish brown, about 4 foot tall. They created her and fixed her DNA to where she could withstand the density of Earth and go back and forth. So she pretty much does their legwork. And there's more than her, but for me, that happens to be the one I'm bonded with. And she does the legwork and gets me back and forth. So when I get on craft, I don't see her or the other 2 anymore. That's when I go through the whole real experience, which is a brief exam of checking my physical health, my mental health. They check to see what toxins that we are being exposed to on Earth. They check to see, how am I balancing out my contactee in my human life? Am I balancing it out okay?
Mm-hmm.
And there's pretty much a group around me doing an evaluation. And the beings that I see there are the tall grays, reptilians, humanoids, the interdimensionals, aquatic beings, some beings that we don't even have names for here on Earth because it is a mothership full of different races of beings. With the interdimensionals are the higher frequency, and they're more of a luminescent kind of a shiny looking, and they're 8 foot tall. So they're older race of beings. So you might even refer to them, I guess. There's many different names I've heard, like in the Bible days, they talked about shiny ones. Or, I know that when I went before a group at one time, they took me before a council to understand why me, why my children, because they're experiencers and contactees too. And I saw them being taken for their first contact. So when they did that, they took me before a group of interdimensionals and they referred to them as elders. So kind of like, the wiser of the bunch, sort of.
Okay, but still, I still want to know, did they explain to you why you?
Yes. When I went before the council or group of elders of interdimensionals, which was many, many of them, and they were from different parts of galaxies or, they didn't go into all that detail and I didn't ask, but I asked them why this was happening to me. What was the purpose of it? Why did they involve my children? Why me? And so they told me that I had made an agreement to be part of an evolutionary process here on planet Earth, and that I came here with a purpose, and that when I got here, I wouldn't remember it, but they would be coming to visit me throughout my life to get me prepared for what my purpose here on this planet Earth is. And that was when I was 30 years old. So I, was very confused, and they could sense my confusion. So they took a blue orb and they opened it up and showed me a vision. And the vision was of myself agreeing. I was an interdimensional being, and I was agreeing to be part of this process. and my children, who I don't know if they were my children there or not, here on Earth, they're my two sons. They also agreed to be part of this and come with me to help support me and be part of this mission. And that we would all wake up at different times, and they would be contacting us all at different times to get us prepared for this evolutionary process that humanity would be going through, a leap in our ascension and evolution. Mm-hmm. So, I saw myself waiting. I saw myself walking, and through the whole process, into the essence of myself going into my mother, inside my mother. And then I witnessed myself being born. And then at that point, they said, you will not remember any of this, but we will be visiting you all your life until the time is right. And then you will understand. So that's basically what has happened to me and my children.
Okay. So do you think you were seated?
My soul incarnated here.
Okay, but
I was an interdimensional.
You were not physically seated into your mother's womb, but your spirit was.
My soul.
Yeah.
My soul was incarnated. My essence went into a soul is not, a soul does not, a fetus, there's only at a certain point where a soul comes into it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so can I ask about the one that contacts you? You say it's a hybrid. A hybrid from what?
She and the others are created by the tall grays and the interdimensionals. There's over 60 different races of grays in many different heights, many different colors. And she is a hybrid that they created because the regular extraterrestrials of all races and interdimensionals have a problem with the density here on Earth. So with their technology, which their technology is really not like our technology at all, but anyway, they created this Pacific hybrid to do legwork for them.
Okay.
And she's biological. She's not a robot, but a lot of people think they're robots, but they're not.
Okay, we're going to talk about that before we go too much farther,
Mm-hmm.
Nancy. Can you tell us your Facebook page, because I found it very, very interesting.
Oh, it is. I'm sure. So, yes, it's time for disclosure / we have never been alone. We are the disclosure.
Okay, yeah, it's very interesting, and she posts some really incredible stuff on there. So. We talked earlier, and I just want to jump into this because I'm very curious about the different types of aliens. And so we talked about this, the Matilda Macelroy interview. And do you know enough about it to explain it, or do you want me to?
You can explain it.
Well, okay. So in the Roswell crash, supposedly one of the aliens that survived, started communicating with the nurse that was on site, and they found out that this alien would not communicate with anybody, and was very mistrustful of the military. And they had all the big wigs there. They had Hohen Kotler and all of your Majestic 12 people were there, and she was able to, over time, they taught her how to speak English or to communicate in English. And then during the interview, and this is on YouTube, it's the Matilda Macelroy interview, but over time, this alien opens up and starts telling her, not for the benefit of the military, for the benefit of herself, about how there is not a race, but an organization called the Domain, and they supplanted another power that was it's like the old I can't remember what they were called, but the Domain is, according to this interview, they control a quarter of the universe, and they're constantly expanding. She said exactly what you're saying. They don't like Earth because it's got a very dense gravity, and it's basically a volcanic rock that reinvents itself every now and then, and that a lot of people are put here just as it's a prison planet, and that the older power that the domain is trying to supplant has us basically locked in to a perpetual cycle of what people call reincarnation, that you when you die your soul doesn't get to go anywhere. You just get zapped so you don't remember anything, and then back you go. So that brings up a lot of the stuff that you're talking about. And the first one is that this being was a gray. So and she said, "Well, I'm not really a gray. I'm more of a I'm just a doll. I'm operated by somebody that lives back in our home planet, whatever." And so does that kind of sync with what you're talking about, that the ones that are the grays that are interacting with you are really just kind of avatars, and their consciousness actually exists someplace else because Earth is not a good place for them to be?
The way they explain it to me is that because of the density of Earth, they created the hybrid to do that kind of work. And the way they explain it to me, that they believe in creator source and they all have souls. So the way for me, I incarnated here, and when my vessel dies, this is a temporary vessel that I am. The human experience is a very short experience. I'm 64 years old, which is nothing to them. They live much, much longer lifespans than we live. So I'm a baby to them still. I'm a baby. So, but when I die and I leave my vessel, my consciousness and my soul will reincarnate, will go back to source, or everyone's soul on earth goes to their source. Whether you're a interplanetary soul, an earth-based soul, or angelic soul, I'm an interplanetary soul. So I will go back to source and back to my home, to where my family are waiting for me, because my family are still there waiting for me. Now, sometimes I don't have proof of this, but my son and I talk about this quite a bit, because they're just like me. They've had the Kundalini awakenings. They experience all these things, get the downloads, et cetera, et cetera. So sometimes my oldest son and I talk about that we are the avatars, and our true self is in a sleep stasis on the mothership, and this is just a dream. So there's so much of this, and I do not know everything, and neither of us claim to know everything, but we're learning more and more all the time. And it's not that they're not telling us, but it's our human brains. Sometimes it takes us a while to fight for it all to click, because this is way above anything that we experience here on Earth, way above any of our technology, way above any of our physics, way above anything in our reality. So I know that if you're an earthbound soul, your source would be Earth. So you might be in a, cycle. But the way they explained it to me is that when you go to source, where you originated from, your soul originated from, you go before, say, council or elders or whichever belongs in that realm. And if you have experienced all the things that you wanted to experience for your soul purpose, not your human purpose, your soul experience, if you have not, you will come back and try it again on Earth to try to get those experiences. If you have met those experiences, then you can decide to come back, or you can decide to try another physical form somewhere else, as a dolphin, if you want to come back to Earth, or a tree or a plant, or you could try another galaxy or be an extraterrestrial. You have options when you get to that point. Or if you want to, you're satisfied and the council agrees, you're satisfied with all these experiences, you can stay in a non-physical etheric state up at the highest realm, which is with the creator source, which is where all consciousness remain and stay until they want to do something different. And there is no end. Our souls are immortal. That's what they tell me.
Okay.
So
What I want to talk about, because you bring up so many different topics, and for me, logically, it would seem that if the universe is conscious,
it is.
then it would be able to, through the processes of nature or whatever your thing is, that you would create these beings that would go out, that, like you say, would experience things, but so that the source would be able to experience and know these things, because the source can't, the source is the source. So
Mhm.
you just create all these millions of little eyes and, beings that go out and experience things that, as you say, go,
Mhm.
these people or the council or whatever sees through, and so they don't actually have to do it. So
Well, what they say is all beings on earth, all living beings, humans, all living creatures, planet earth, the universe, extraterrestrials, interdimensionals, we are all one. We are all connected. And when we finally get our connections figured out and come in unity, that's what the creator source has in design for us, is for us all to understand our connections and come together and work together. So,
okay.
yeah.
What happens on the ships?
On the ships, when I first get there, they check to see if I'm okay. They don't do what people say, the probing, the eye sticks, and all that other nonsense. They are very, very, they're billions of years ahead of us in terms of evolution. And in their reality, our technology is a separate entity. Our technology is what you and I are talking on right now. We have to carry it around. It is separate. In their reality, their higher consciousness is their technology. It is not a separate entity. Now, they do have things that they can look at and things like that, because obviously they can't, from where they can't see what's happening on Earth. So they have devices to where they can look and see what's going on around the universe and things. But as far, they can manifest anything they want, and they do their surgeries and stuff through their consciousness. So I go through the exam, and then I'm evaluated, and then we just have conversations. And a lot of times, it's like they know whatever I've been thinking here on earth, like maybe something I'm wrestling around with in my mind, and they will address that. Or, it's just different. And sometimes it's just to teach me things, because everything that has occurred in my life, good or bad, was a preparation to get me to where I am now, to do what I'm doing right now, to get the world ready, to bridge the gap between human beings and interdimensional extraterrestrials, to clear up misinformation, to speak the truth, speak from my heart, and to help people to understand, the bad. And there's a lot of their things that they've done have been perceived or stereotyped in the wrong way. And so I've experienced a lot for that very reason. Even when I was scared and upset and thought it was horrible, I now look at it from eyes of understanding, because everything they do was for a higher purpose, because they've always known that we were going to go through this stage of evolution. Even when they sent me here as an interdimensional, that was all part of this process. And we are now at this pivotal time where we are going through our ascension and evolution. And so now I'm here to try to get people to look within your subconscious, ask it to open up into your human consciousness, figure out who we are, our soul selves, not the Nancy or you that the world has programmed you to be, but to figure out your soul purpose, who you really are. And that's what they want us to do, is to wake up and understand who we are and understand that we all chose to come to this planet and be here at this time. We all knew this was going to be a big event, and we're all part of the disclosure. That's why I say we are the disclosure, meaning humanity, human beings. That's what this is all about. It's not about extraterrestrials have been around way before us, and they left plenty of evidence. But we, as a collective group of consciousness, put it in denial or didn't figure it out. It was right in our face, but we ignored it. But now, through, we're leaving this 3D negative realm, moving into fourth or fifth dimension, our awareness and intelligence will increase. And it's the right time for them to interact with us, because we're finally at a level we'll understand they are not gods. They are not angels. They are simply beings that are billions of years ahead of us, and they wish us no harm. They see us as children because they do not claim to have created us. They say they played a part because they do believe in creator source. They played a part in it. They don't say they did it all.
Hey everyone, Matthew Hines here. I just want to encourage you, if you're liking this podcast, don't forget, head over to encountersusa.com, where we have a whole variety of different podcasts with some of your favorite Bigfoot, alien, and dogman celebrities. So go over to encountersusa.com and check out our blogs, our podcast and YouTube videos, and don't forget to check out the gift shop, where you're going to find some of the latest fashions that are going to make you stand out wherever you go or whatever planet you happen to end up on. These are original designs by Matthew Hines. You're not going to find them anywhere else but encountersusa.com. So head on over and check us out, and don't forget to check out the bookstore as well. Yep, you can even get some fashionable merch from the Cascade Bigfoot series. That's right, it's all here at encountersusa.com. Now back to the show. All right, so we are back with Nancy Thames, and we're talking about the idea of source and the idea that these more intelligent beings than us have a certain purpose for us. And you're talking about like a higher consciousness, and we're evolving. So let's just start off with, what is your role in the evolution?
My role is to help bridge the gap, help people to understand, teach people how to be more positive, by being more positive, raising our frequency. We raise our frequency, our attitudes, our understanding, our thinking increases, and we become healthier. So it gets us, the object is to get as much of humanity on the right path of raising the frequency. And if we get the frequency going so far, and it does spread among humans, just like the common cold spreads. And so if we get to a certain frequency, then we start ascending and we start evolving. And this is not something that's going to leave anybody out. Different people will, every human being, this is a worldwide phenomena. It affects everybody. Nobody's getting left behind like what some of these people think and say. But some people will wake up or become more in tune with things quicker than others. But it will be inevitable that they will eventually have to change, because as we raise our frequency and become more, in that frame of mind, we will not give attention to negativity or lower level thinking, because it no longer serves us as our human souls. It no longer serves humanity. So they will have to participate and change in order to be part of the crowd, so to speak. So
how do we change our frequency?
By being more positive. So we have to first recognize the fact, since the day we were born, we've been programmed. We're in a 3D realm. The 3D realm is a negative realm. This is where wars, racism, division, separation, all these things occurred in this negative realm. This is the realm where it occurs. As we go up our DNA ladder into higher realms, dimensions, which are not physical places, and there's not locations for these places, they are higher levels of consciousness. So as we do this, as we go up our DNA ladder, all negativity, little by little, all these warlike ways, all this division, separation, all these things fall off little by little. None of it occurs overnight, just as in our ascension and our evolutionary process, because this is a worldwide phenomenon, and it has to be a slow, divine way, because we're all a part of it. And by the time we get to the end of it, it will seem like our world has always been this way. It's just like in our past histories. We go back and look, and we see great leaps or big jumps, technology leaps, things that have occurred. And there's like a period of time where we just don't understand where mankind all of a sudden became like we are now. But the difference now is we are more of a higher conscious, and we're aware our world is changing. We're aware of the actual words and meanings of frequency and dimensions. Back in those days, they had no idea. So it was just, they didn't know. So, and at the time, it's like I said, they didn't even realize it. And they seemed like their world had always been that way. And it's now when we reflect back and look at history, we see, wow, what happened there? So it's basically the same thing, except they were more intelligent this go around. But this is the biggest one since our creation. This is a big event. And that's why all of the extraterrestrials of many or all races are here to witness this, because they've been waiting and planning on this for a very long time. I mean, that's why I'm here. That was 64 years ago. They've always known that this was going to happen, and this is what they've been waiting on. And I also think that's what if the government knows what I know, it makes sense that they would just not jump out and disclose all that they know, because why do that and disrupt our world and put people in a panic when they know that evolution has a role to play in this, and we just have to be patient and let evolution run its course, which will help people to comprehend, understand these vast changes in reality. And it will be at a more understandable, and they'll have more awareness. It'll be more digestible to all the way that it's being done.
Okay.
All of it goes together. It's all part of it. All of it's part of the same thing. This is evolution.
Okay, so we're not going to stay on this topic for too long, but I just have to ask you this. So the evolution you're talking about it's not conscious. It's not conscious. It is physical. It is genetic evolution. Are you talking about that there are
It
people?
is consciousness. We are reaching higher levels of consciousness.
Okay, but that's not your normal evolution. Evolution has to do with, Darwin and things like that.
He wasn't right.
Okay.
That's
but it's not. But it's not. But so this is a conscious evolution.
This is a awakening to a spiritual dimensional realm, an opening of awareness that we're opening doors to realities that we cannot visually see with our eyes. We're in a 3D world. We can only see so far. Okay. Even dogs, cats, other animals, and we are understanding that everything on our planet, plants, insects, birds, are all living conscious beings. Plants and trees communicate. We can't see it. That's because we're in a locked 3D. Our vision only goes so far. We only use our 5 senses to understand the world and the universe.
Right.
These things are physically going to change.
Mm-hmm.
is going to change our visual range. Extraterrestrials, interdimensionals are not hiding from us. They're all over our sky and in our solar system. We simply can't see it because of our visual range.
Right.
We are evolving in every aspect. Our DNA is starting to activate, which people call junk DNA. It is not junk DNA. It's extraterrestrial, and it's been lying dormant, but we are peeking out. Our pineal gland has been shrunk down. It is going to activate, and we're going to become more intuitive. And again, these things won't happen overnight. It has to be done in a very slow way. It would be too much for the human brain. People would freak out if it was too much too quickly. It's a slow divine process.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, just to kind of throw this into our discussion here, is that some of the ideas you're talking about the awareness of consciousness of plants and, Native Americans had that, the
Exactly.
Hindus seem to have it. So it's just like, well, the evolution you're talking about more or less has to come from our society. And before you answer, how does, and not trying to put anybody's beliefs system into this, but how does Christianity sync with what you're talking about?
In their reality, there are no religions. Religions are division. Religions are separation. We are one. We are all connected. This is a negative realm. Division in languages, division in religions were done intentionally to keep humanity separated. This is what keeps us from ascending and evolving. We are one. We have to realize that we've been programmed to not ascend because these human elites that control our world cannot make money off of healthy, intelligent human beings. So they put toxins in our air, in our water, in our food. They put negative information on our news. These elites own our broadcasting companies. These elites own our pharmaceutical companies. These elites control our governments and put who they want in office. These elites control our world. And as long as they've got us under their thumb, they are able to control and manipulate us. But we are waking up and we're going to be aware of what is being done to us. And as that occurs, we will realize our connections and come together, and we will be unstoppable. And they will never, ever be able to manipulate and control us again.
Okay. And I'm just going to throw this in there because I feel like I have to, but everything you're saying here, it really sounds a lot like, and I'm not talking about your organized religion and all that, but it really sounds like what Jesus said. That you have to have a higher conscious, you have to be aware of your source, you have to be aware of why you're here, you have to be tolerant of everybody. And so anyway, that's I don't want to get into
this is a spiritual growth for humanity.
Okay.
But it's not a religious growth.
Right.
It's spiritual.
But okay. All right. Well, let's get off of that, and that's that's great, and
that's another
I believe I believe in what you're saying is true, but we are definitely controlled by people that, and going back to this Matilda Macelroy person, and this alien told her that we're here. There's different races of people, and it's all because they want to just divide us from each other, and and they call it a prison planet. And I think David Icke, well, I don't know how to pronounce that.
I know him.
Calls it prison planet. But anyway, all right. So let's just skip to a different topic here. Now you were talking about the Nazca aliens when we first
ruins,
started off. So are we talking about the little ET looking fellows?
Yes. As a matter of fact, he looks just like Steven Spielberg's little guy. I did an article about that today. It's shocking.
because there was another one. I just want to make sure that people understand there was another one that they found, and that it was very tiny. And then they said, "Oh, this is just a tiny mutated human," but this was a long time ago. But these guys
Mhm.
that they came out with this is like 2 years ago. They came out
Yeah.
with these ones, right? Okay, so you probably are not aware. I mean, I've talked about this
Mhm.
a few times on my podcast, and that Spielberg and George Lucas, I mean, Spielberg's the Close Encounters of the Third Kind
Mhm.
is based on the Indiana and Ohio the Pine Ridge incidents of 73. And that was where they found where people saw alien ships and Bigfoot coming out of the alien ships. And so I always make the point of this that, and this is part of this book here,
Yeah.
and I don't know if you can even see it, but it's called Deceptions of the Ages. And anyway, I make a point in there that Lucas and Spielberg are all united by one belief system, and that's they're Freemasons. And that they were given access to information. Remember, we're close to the same age, so I wish you quit saying how old you are because you don't look old at all. You look like you're in your 30s, and I'm only a few years behind you, so you can't possibly be that old. So anyway, in remember a $6 million man
Yes.
fighting with Bigfoot. Remember that?
Yeah. What about Star Wars?
Well, I was going to get to that,
Yeah.
but that the first one is that one that might be obscure to some of the
Mhm.
younger people, but then you've got Bigfoot in Star Wars,
Mhm.
and you've got I mean, but at the time, if people came out and said that, they would have their career would have been ruined, and have said, "Oh, here's Bigfoot, and he's part of this space culture and all that." People they would have been ruined. And
Yeah.
then for Spielberg to come out with E.T. and say, "Oh, there's extraterrestrials," when they were destroying people's lives and killing them for saying these things. So my point is, and I don't know if you want to weigh in on it, but they are Freemasons, and the Freemasons have access to some knowledge that most people didn't, and this is really, in fact, Close Encounters was part of that experiment where they sent the people to go live on the other
Project
oh
Serpo.
Serpo, yeah. So that's part of this Project Serpo that everybody says didn't happen, and it's a bunch of garbage. But so what do you have to say about all that?
And I don't know how they got their information, whether it was from the Masons, which I don't know. I'm not a Mason. But I do know that the Masons know a lot of things, and I know
Well,
they don't
here's a
really.
plug for my book. Read my book because it's in there.
Yeah,
And it
but I do know that extraterrestrials and interdimensionals enter into people's dream state, so they can influence or give it, offer ideas to people. And whether you use it or not, that's a different story. But I know even when I'm not physically face to face with them, they are every night, they are in my mind teaching me things or letting me experience things, educating me. So, those were things that needed to be done at those times because it's all been kind of an acclamation to get humanity prepared for today, for what we're going to be, for what's the inevitable is, part of our evolution is realizing we are part of the cosmic realm. So they have to introduce these things throughout our life. And now, as we become more aware, we're going to go, wow, that's why they did that. Wow, that's why they did that. So it will make more sense. So yeah, those things are real. And I do think they were heavily influenced by the interdimensional extraterrestrials in whatever way. I don't know if it was through them giving them the dreams or if it was from the Freemasons. But yeah, are you a Freemason?
No.
No.
No, I'm close to it, and we can talk about it afterwards. But it's in my book. It's a very fascinating story, but I'm not a Freemason, and I wouldn't be, and they wouldn't let me be because of my religion. But they have shunned people of my religion since the 1800s. They said you will never. Although, well, we can talk about this later. But no, but
Yeah, it's interesting.
I read enough about, doing the research in my book. I went back to Egypt, and I went back to Greece, and I went back to
Mhm.
the mystery cults, and the Templars, and then the how the Freemasons developed in 18th century England, and how they were able to finally get a foothold. But yeah, I've gone into it, and I just got interested in it because I read a book about how the Native Americans, there are stories of Native Americans or settlers that, like for example, one group was traveling on the Oregon Trail, and the natives were going to kill them. Right, they were going to kill them in
Yeah.
horrible ways, and they made the Masonic sign of distress. And they said, "Oh, okay." And then they gave him food and said, "Go on your way. And if you need any
Wow.
help, then our people will help you." So and then there's all these incidents of and this is from the Freemasons themselves, say
Yeah.
that their warrior societies were organized into Freemason lodges. So
Yes.
so
They're all over the
how
world. Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, this is before that happened, before they had contact with whites, that the whites came and, well, what are these guys doing, with Freemason
Mhm.
rites and cults? And then you get into,
Yeah.
religion, and a certain religion that everybody says is not, correct. But anyway, but that is it's a very big part of history, and it's stuff that even the Freemasons document, that the Native Americans definitely had a knowledge of Freemasonry. And the question is, where did they get it? And that's
Star
where,
people.
well, it doesn't have to be necessarily star people. I mean, if people were migrating back and forth from Europe and the Middle East, and I will tell you that if you follow Brian Forster's stuff, that they've done that DNA testing, and his partner, they did the DNA testing and said that, these people down there, these red-haired giants, they came from the Middle East, they came from Turkey and
Yeah.
that area. So if you look into that aspect, which science will not let you
Yeah.
do,
I
because if
know. I
you
don't
do
know
it,
why they've always had this
because they
suppression of
don't.
knowledge. Yeah.
Well, anyway, it's
Yeah.
why doesn't science want this idea that, oh no, people from the New and Old World were communicating for a long time in history, and then about the Roman times it stopped.
Yeah.
But you can't say that. It's always got to be, no, the this is your podcast. I mean, you're supposed to be talking, not
I
me.
know, but it's
But
interesting.
but I can't remember what the theory is, but it's about there was, if you science has no contact between Europe, Middle East, and North and South America, but the genetics are there, and they found the genetics. And then in my book, I talk about a place called Corral, Peru, which, if you look into it, people got off boats and started building pyramids about 3500 or 3500 BC, I guess. Got off boats basically and started building pyramids in Corral, Caral. And
Mhm.
so, anyway, there is a belief system that incorporates all that stuff and has since the 1800s. But people say that, oh, that's not true and everything. But now science and Brian Forrester are saying that no, these red-haired giants came from the Middle East. And if you look into Egyptology and some of the skulls like of Nefertiti, I think, with the long heads,
Yeah.
that
Elongated. Yeah.
those were actually a branch of somebody that probably ended up here as well. So anyway, and and it goes into the idea of that what is his name that talks about the huge apocalypse theory from the younger Dryas, that there was a mass that the earth basically stopped spinning, and that the oceans just basically overwhelmed everything, and that destroyed Atlantis and yada yada yada. Well, anyway, so it's all interesting stuff,
It
but
is
it's not
very
what I'm
interesting.
talking, not what I brought you on here for.
That's
So
okay.
anyway, well, so for people that are listening, what advice would you give? Because if you want people to reach their higher vibrational state, well, first of all, before you tell them how, what is the point? Why would you want to reach a higher vibrational state?
When you reach a higher vibrational frequency, your body feels good. It's kind of the way that I can express it is like runners that run for a long period of time, and they run because they get an adrenaline rush that feels it's an euphoric feeling. So as you raise your frequency, it is also a rush and a frequency, and it feels really good. So as you increase your frequency, your body rewards you. All of these endorphins and things kick out. And so it's like you start activating all the energy sources from head to toe in your body, and everything aligns, and you become more in line with the rest of the world. When I say that, I'm talking about planet Earth and all living creatures on it, because they're just waiting for humans to reach this point, and we can do this. And the way that I tell people is and if you have two negative thoughts, which we're human, we're going to have negative thoughts. That's just part of it. Replace it with two positive thoughts. Instead of seeing the negative side of a day or waking up, think of positive things, see the beauty in things. And eventually your brain will learn to start having more positive thoughts. And as you reach higher levels of frequencies and stuff, it's just the negative ways just automatically start falling off. And as you go work on yourself individually, don't expect to change the whole world. Work on yourself first. And
Mhm.
what I do is I look within and I ask my subconscious, I meditate or pray, whatever people want to do, or just mentally talk to yourself. Ask your subconscious to open up into your human consciousness, because your soul and your subconscious knows everything about you, and it will not lie to you, and it will tell you the truth. And your soul knows why you came to earth, what your purpose was, and it will help and guide you if you get in tune with it and ask it to. So I tell people to get in tune with their inner soul self, their subconscious, and it will guide you and help you as we face all these new decisions and changes in our world. It will help you, and it will not lie to you, and it will help you make the right choices. So you don't need to believe me, don't need to believe anybody. Rely on your inner soul self,
Okay, so
because
are you
we are the disclosure. Human beings waking up, understanding our uniqueness, understanding our place on this planet and where we belong on it, and our place in the cosmic realm. Understanding us will make the difference. Yeah.
Well, we're going to come back to that in a second. So I just want to be clear here. Do you advocate like physical exercise to reach a higher vibration? Is
No, it's
No.
it's all a consciousness, and it's all thought frequency and consciousness. There's no eating more organic foods, being healthier. Yes, all those things work. All those things. But what happens is, as you raise your frequency and as we ascend, all these things, your brain, your mind will lead you in that direction of eating more healthy, eating more organic foods, stay away from saturated and all these artificial things. For example, they told me everything when we were created that we ever needed was put here in some form, whether it plant, bark, mineral, there's nutrients and everything we need. We should not need synthetic pharmaceutical drugs, and our governments or companies are keeping us suppressed from technology that they've been sitting on for eons. There should be no poverty. There should be no disease. There's cures for everything, because when we were created, there's something for us. And we should not, because of us being at this lower level frequency and all the toxins and things put in our world, that creates disease, that creates sickness, that also controls our lifespans. We should be living much longer lives. But this is a form of population control that has been done to us. So these things are going to come to surface. All truths are going to become known. And as they do, with our intelligence, we'll make wiser and better decisions so that we can increase our lifespans. And we'll know, our subconscious already knows what our body needs, and it will open up and tell us.
Okay. All right. So I think I figured this out. We have 40 minutes and then it kicks us off. We have 10 minutes, so we have plenty of time to close out of this. So to finish up with what you're saying is that if you have a negative thought, you should think of two positive
thoughts. Yeah.
Okay. That's a great idea. All right. So now let's get back to we are the disclosure idea.
Yes.
So, they keep talking about disclosure, but as far as I see it, if you want disclosure, it's there. I mean, it's on TV. You can watch it on 50 different shows on Amazon or whatever, that all the truth of what we know and just the fact that we're sitting here talking about it, obviously there is disclosure.
I agree.
So what I want to know about you is, what is are you, because until we got a hold of each other, then I didn't really know anything about you, but you must have like a huge following, right? You have a lot of people on your Facebook.
Yes, I do.
And so are you like a teacher? Do people come to you for, I don't want to embarrass you or anything, but do people come to you for, advice and help and I need to understand this stuff?
I don't sell anything, people have.
I'm not saying that.
Yeah. I do this because this is who I am. I came here to do this, and this is my sole purpose. This is my love, my niche in the world. And yeah, people are free to ask me questions, and they either message me, or I have a timefordisclosure.com is my website, and it has a forum. So I get messages there, and I have a group of members there, and then I have the Facebook group. And so people ask me things, and I don't claim to do anything out of the ordinary. I'm a truthful, and I just can speak from my experiences and what knowledge they've given me, but yeah, I try to help people, because raising our frequency and having an understanding of what these things, and I also like to lead people into other type places, even for the paranormal people that had traumatic experiences. There are groups and links and meetups for people that gather together and communicate, because when we have these things occur in our life, we don't always have family members to talk to. So as this further occurs, there needs to be safe places for people to know they're not alone in dealing with this. So I try to provide places like that. So it's a combination of a lot of things. And I belong to a lot of groups, and they're all great. I think we're all working towards the same thing. So I think that people should go in and dip their toe around in different ones and find one that, resonates with them. Mine's open to the public. Anybody can join that. We have a few things, but it is open, and it is a place for experiencers of ET, anything related, to come and to learn, share, make friends, find out about conventions, symposiums, find out about books, documentaries, find out about what good movies to watch, how to find out ways to introduce these things to the rest of your family, the younger generation coming up. So there's so many things, and that's why I do what I do, because this is a worldwide phenomenon. And, it has to be done in a way that everyone feels a part of it, because they are. Mm-hmm. And I try to keep it that way, that open for everyone. Mm-hmm. So it's very important to me and very important to my children. And they work together, and they are admin in the same group with me. And we all work and support it. It is a family mission.
Okay. So wearedisclosure.com is your website.
Yeah. Well, no, both are timefordisclosure.com is the website.
Okay.
And then the Facebook group is Time for Disclosure / We Have Never Been Alone / We Are the Disclosure. So I may change that at some point, but right now that's what it is.
Yeah, more slashes in there than a Ted Bundy did.
Yeah. But I just, it has to be, for me, disclosure means so many different things to me. It's not just the government. Disclosure is, for me, is humanity, understanding who we are, our uniqueness, our place on this planet, our place within the universe, and why we came here, who we truly are. So for me, that is disclosure. I could care less what the government does. And I know that through our evolution, that by the time we get through this, people will not care what the government says, because it's all going to surface. It's all going to occur. And government disclosure has nothing to do with what the interdimensionals and extraterrestrials are going to do. They're on their own time frame. There is no time in their reality. There's no such thing as time, but they do not care. They are reaching out to humanity. Mm-hmm. So that's what is important to them, is all of us, every single one of us.
Mm-hmm. So, do you do speaking engagements? Are you appearing anywhere? Or?
Well, I do podcasts all over the world, and I have been asked to do some things. I do what I can. I can't afford to go on all these cruises and all these, these very expensive, but I have been invited to, but I do as much as I can. I do belong to MUFON, and I'm very active in that, in the Experiencer group. And I also took the field investigator course, and I would like to get MUFON reactivated in Mississippi and be a part of that, and possibly my son be the state director. Mm-hmm. And I also belong to Hollywood Disclosure Alliance, which is pretty new occurrence for me. I got into that through Steve Bassett, I think I said his name right.
Yeah.
And, and he was generous enough to give me all of his spreadsheet list of all the interviews and podcasts he has ever done, and the contacts for me, because, apparently for him to do that shows that he thinks that I'm on the right path. And that meant a lot to me. Nobody else has really helped me other than my sons and family. So that was astonishing, for him being a lobbyist to do that for somebody. He truly cares about humanity.
Yeah. Well, the thing that separates you is you are looking like me. You look for the big picture. You look at all the information. And so that's we have 2 minutes left on our time slot here. So I just want to point a couple things out. See how we have the same background?
Yeah.
And then you and I have the exact same color eyes. Did you see that?
Yeah.
So the first thing I want to say about the background is great minds think alike.
That's true.
And I don't know about the color. I think that's just a genetic freak of nature. But anyway, it has been fantastic talking to you.
Thank you very much.
You're really a breath of fresh air. Yeah, well, I hope we can be in touch. And what I'd really like to have you do, if you ever can, you ever heard of ECETI Ranch?
Yes.
You should come up here. I'd like to, maybe in the summer or whatever. It's going to be cloudy.
I'd love to.
It's going to be cloudy for the next year, but Maybe next summer you could come up and we could go because I'd like to see if you could get some of the aliens to, because I mean they show up. They
Yeah,
show
I've
up in
never
their
been to
ship.
a C5. I would like to do that. I really would. I would love to do that. I would. That would be awesome. I went to the MUFON International Symposium, and so I'm joining it on the international level. And I want to have those connections,
Yeah.
and not just be in the small local part of it. I want to be in the big picture of it. So,
Yeah.
anything like that, I'm open to. So, I
All
would
right.
love to do that.
Well, we're going to get kicked off. Well, if you will come up and we'll be in touch, but
Okay.
I'll introduce you to James Gilliland that runs the place, and it's ESETI Ranch, and you can see Mount UFOs coming off Mount Adams.
You should send me his email or something,
I
somehow,
will.
some way to get in touch with him
I
because
will.
I don't know how. Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to get out. I want to say my thing before we go, so we're going to get cut off. But thank you for being on
Thank you for having
Encounters
me.
USA, and remember what we always say: always watch
Record.
your
Yeah, we
back.
got to.
Oh, yeah. Now you tell me. Oh, now we.